In this Soulframe video, we'll be talking about everything we know about the upcoming MMORPG being developed and published by Digital Extremes since our last video, which was over a year ago. As I mentioned, Soulframe is being developed and published by Digital Extremes, who are the creators of one of the most popular online games ever, Warframe. Soulframe has been in development for about a year and a half so far, and from what has been shown in trailers, gameplay footage, and the dev stream from the CEO Steve Sinclair, it looks to be a pretty interesting title that is aiming to create a fantasy version of Warframe with slower and more strategic gameplay, as well as a story inspired by the famous Studio Ghibli film Princess Mononoke. The story of Soulframe takes place in the fantasy world of Midrath, a realm of men, beasts, magic, and divine entities. In this world, the kingdom of Ode rules supreme and has entered into a war against nature and its divine entities, the Omen Beasts, spirits of nature that were born from the god of Midrath, Alka. In the midst of the war against nature, the Ode have successfully captured and corrupted some of these beings, making them hostile and irrational. Omen beasts that have been seen so far include Orengal the wolf, who was chained up but freed by the player, Garenrud the deer, a corrupted beast that players must fight, and an unnamed moose beast that saves the player once they wash ashore on a beach. The player in Soulframe is known as the Envoy, a character who was once part of the kingdom of Ode but has since been banished from their nation to the northern isle of Midrath, where the Omen Beasts roam. The Envoy now allies with the Omen Beasts, cleansing them of their corruption while defeating the inhabitants of Midrath, who have been bewitched by the Ode to betray their friendship with the Omen Beasts. There isn't much out about the story yet, and a lot of the story information is hidden in cryptic poems and the puzzles on the Soulframe website from last year. However, we can see that the story of Soulframe is going to center around nature and its restoration, primarily regarding the corrupted Omen Beasts. The main location of the game is going to be the northern isle of Midrath, where the Envoy washes up. This isle is home to the Omen Beasts, as well as native inhabitants who have turned on the Omen Beasts for the kingdom of Ode. This isle is a vast forest that branches off into procedurally generated dungeons and instances, and within this vast isle, players will discover various intriguing monuments and structures such as enemy villages, mysterious cabins nestled in the woods, and an enormous wall that seems to touch the sky. And if you look above, you'll also be able to see a floating island, likely the kingdom of Ode, alongside the moon that has a strange green ring about it. This iridescent green ring encircling the moon actually holds celestial significance and a long-forgotten religion in the world of Midrath. It was believed to be the place where souls of the departed find their rest. However, the souls of the Envoy's ancestors can be found throughout Midrath, unable to leave the mortal realm, perhaps as a result of the Ode's schemings. Besides the isle, the Envoy can do a trust fall onto the ground to dramatically and fashionably enter the realm of Nighthold, the main hub. Nighthold acts as a domain that the souls of the Envoy's ancestors can reside in, as well as the Omen Beast Orengal. Once the Envoy has found their ancestors' souls and sends them to Nighthold, they will be able to talk to them and employ them to do various RPG things like blacksmithing or crafting, not unlike something like Dark Souls. As you find more and more of your ancestors, Nighthold will become busier and busier, and transform from a barren landscape containing a few people to a proper village of your ancestors. The best part, there seems to be no loading screen between Nighthold and Midrath, making it a form of instantaneous fast travel. Soulframe is a PvE co-op ARPG with some MMO elements, much like its cousin Warframe. There will be guilds or clans for players to group up in, but the game can be played in a single-player experience. The player will explore the island of Midrath to advance the main story and get stronger over time with new equipment and tools they find as they progress through the world, but there are many unique things to explore. Firstly, let's cover the doggo, also known as Omen Beast Orengal. The Envoy rescues him from being captured and corrupted at the hands of the Ode, leading to Orengal the wolf becoming the Envoy's trusted ally in the fight against the kingdom of Ode. Once you rescue him in your playthrough, you'll not only be able to attack with him and pet him, but you'll also use him as a mount to traverse the Isle of Midrath. As you explore, you'll be able to find various points of interest and also NPCs or loot like ingredients, crafting materials, or weapons. When you interact with an NPC, you'll be given different choices for dialogue, which can only be chosen if you have a certain amount of points and one of the 3 stats in the game. NPCs found in the world can provide useful information like location of an Omen Beast, though not much else has been shown about living NPCs, as most that you find seem to be souls that are trapped in Midrath. Dungeons and other mines or catacombs that can be found throughout the world are procedurally generated as mentioned before, much like the missions in Warframe, though this time with a huge change in gameplay style. Entering a dungeon will first show all the NPCs that you can find if you fully explore the dungeon. However, these NPCs aren't alive. They are the souls of your ancestors named Wandering Souls, which can support you with temporary buffs if you find them within the dungeon. The Wandering Soul showcased in the gameplay footage was friend Jotar, the Fire King, who provides you with a temporary flame buff that massively increases damage from your weapon. As you explore, you can find environmental hazards which can either harm you or can be used against enemies strategically, as well as special loot if you go off the main path, or an interesting bird that can lead you to one of the Wandering Souls in the dungeon. Outside of dungeons and other enclosed structures, you can also find interactable monuments scattered throughout, which can be investigated by using a magic detection ability that functions similarly to Geralt of Rivia's Witcher senses. This ability was used to solve a puzzle that would open a gate in a mine, so we can probably expect more puzzle elements to be present in Soulframe. Additionally, at some points, you will need to use a flute resembling a panpipe to unlock certain parts of the game. When you need to use the flute, you'll be prompted to press buttons in a specific rhythm to unlock a path, or show an ancestral memory, etc. In the context of crafting and weapons, it seems like Digital Extremes plans to add crafting systems that extend past just weapons, with plans to add fishing, mining, and cooking into Soulframe. However, in regards to weapon crafting, it seems that weapons will have a production time like you would see in Warframe, which comes with the territory of free-to-play MMO games. The combat of Soulframe takes a very different approach to the high mob density, fast-paced action you see in Warframe, instead opting for a slower and more strategic form of combat with less enemies. It has the basic mechanics of ARPG combat, such as dodging, rolling, blocking, parrying, and a wide arsenal of weapons such as sword, dual swords, polearms, bows, and others. Soulframe builds on these basic mechanics with other features though. First is a finisher attack that deals huge damage to an enemy after they are left vulnerable from a heavy attack or a magic ability that knocks them down. Next are throwable weapons which return to your hands after being thrown, like the Leviathan Axe from God of War, and also allow you to pummel your enemies with your bare fists after chucking a sword at them. Lastly, there is stealth in the game, which allows you to sneakily get up behind enemies and hit them with a high damage backstab. Alongside the combat functions is an attribute system and a pact system, which is used to equip magic abilities. The 4 attributes that the Envoy has are called virtues, which are life, courage, spirit, and grace. Life is the total health of the Envoy, and the 3 other stats can be leveled to change how you build your character's magical abilities, which can be equipped by changing your prosthetic arm's pact. Pacts are defined by the prosthetic arm the Envoy equips, and it defines the set of 3 magic abilities that can be used in combat. The pacts we have seen so far have been bonds with the Omen Beast Orangol and Garen Rude, as well as the Odin Containment Gauntlet and a Beginner Fey Gauntlet. Each gauntlet provides 3 magic abilities that are in different positions on the 3 ability slots. Each ability slot consumes a different virtue, the left slot consuming courage, the middle slot consuming spirit, and the right slot consumes grace. It's likely that leveling a virtue will increase the resource pool for its corresponding spell slot, as well as maybe increasing the damage or effectiveness of the ability in said slot. The named magic abilities shown so far have been Bestone, which summons a bird that turns enemies to stone, Mend Mist, which summons a mist that heals you when you damage enemies inside it, and Phantom Flock, which summons a flock of songbirds to attack a foe. Other abilities shown but are unnamed include a Grace spell, which summons an electrical sphere that attacks enemies, and a Courage spell, which conjures an explosion beneath enemies' feet and knocks them back. Also, a cool little detail about this prosthetic arm is that it's most likely a reference to Princess Mononoke and how Ashitaka's arm was corrupted by a curse, which gave it inhuman strength. With that in mind, maybe we'll see a pact later on in the game that uses the strength of a corrupted being to wield powerful corruption spells or abilities, which would be very cool to see. In terms of the enemies you fight, there doesn't seem to be much variety as of now. As you know, the inhabitants of the Northern Isle of Midrath are bewitched to attack the Omen Beasts, and are shown to be in clad iron knight armor with a range of weapons like polearms and swords. However, there were bosses who were showcased in the gameplay footage as well. The first boss was Lady Deora, a friend of the Omen Beast Garen Rude, bewitched by the Ode. She had a fairly simple attack pattern with her staff and a special ability to conjure a black slime around the player's body, trapping them and then exploding them. Her attacks were parryable, and she often deflected blind strikes from the player, encouraging them to find openings rather than blindly attack and hope for the best. Once she was defeated, the flute instrument was used to break the enchantment placed upon her. We will probably find many other characters that have been mind-controlled such as her, and will need to use this process multiple times to cleanse the people of the Isle from the corruption of the Ode. After that boss was a second phase initiated by the corrupted Omen Beast Garen Rude. The beast had wild and reckless attacks that were actually parryable if timed correctly, and otherwise seemed like a straightforward boss without any gimmicks or tricks. If you happen to die to an enemy or boss in the game, you will respawn at the last activated shrine on the map as a ghost, and if you get back to your corpse before the time runs out, you get resurrected with full HP. Soulframe has no set release date as of now, as it's in the early stages of development, and it's only been a year and a half since the project was officially launched. Digital Extremes, however, does plan on releasing a roadmap in the next few months, so keep an eye on our channel for that. The platforms the game will run on will likely be the same as Warframe, which are PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, though no official word as of yet. If Digital Extremes will repeat the same process they did for Warframe, it's possible Soulframe will launch for about a year on PC and then be ported over to Xbox and PlayStation, but this has yet to be confirmed. But it has been confirmed that there will be crossplay between PC and console, and that keyboard and mouse as well as controllers will be supported on PC. Final thoughts. As it stands from the footage we've seen so far, Digital Extremes is focused on creating a game that their community will love. It will be interesting to see how far Soulframe can take the open-world fantasy MMORPG genre, though, with the heavy footprint of Warframe's design and complexity. We have seen how much effort Digital Extremes put into Warframe with over a decade of consistent updates and expansions, so I can't wait to see how this game will shape up in the next year or two. So what do you guys think of Soulframe and its gameplay? Do you think it will contain some of the same gameplay features from Warframe? Are you excited about a slower pace, or did you really like the fast pace of Warframe? Let us know in the comments below.